Hey, what's going on? It's Jay Leo back with another video, short video. Couple videos actually coming up. One of the things that I wanted to kind of hop in, I gave you guys like a little bit of an update the last time. So what I think I'm gonna do, I'll pretty much tell you just as a recap, just in case you didn't watch the other video, you don't follow me, you don't subscribe, which is fine. I'm still actively trading, still actively going in, looking for setups. Just adulting in life occurred. That's like the short version of everything. However, I've kind of made a commitment at a point to myself where, obviously wanting to get out of the rat race that has not happened, but obviously the goal is still just that. Had to go back, basically. Work a job, get a job, which is what kind of curtailed the objective a little bit. However, again, having said all of that, we're kind of back in the fray. I was talking about actually getting back into some type of live stream, which I'm still working on. So what I wanted to do today, since it is Sunday, it's the 14th, is market opens basically 5 o'clock today, and I don't know exactly how. I have an idea, I have a format, but what we're gonna do a little bit is we're gonna freestyle, we're gonna freelance just a little bit, and here's what I mean by that. So today, when the market opens at 5, I'm not particularly gonna do anything. However, I may just kind of throw on some music and copyright free, of course, and go back to some of what my earlier videos were when I was doing London session, looking for silver bullets, doing like the 1 minute charts and whatnot. So they may just be similar to like the live, YouTube channels that are out there, which play like the music, or they'll diagram a specific thing for, say, a market or an area, whatnot. So I'm kind of just gonna maybe play around with a couple of things for a little while this evening, just seeing how those things are set up. Maybe point to some things. I don't know. It's like I said, it's an idea, because come tomorrow, it's gonna be back to like a daily, weekly grind, and not really gonna have the time in the morning unless I'm looking at trading London. Alternatively, there are setups and things that will occur during Asia, and realistically, just like cutting to the chase, there's no fluff, there's no secret sauce or anything like that. What I'd been implementing, because of the schedule change and everything else, and me going back to work, is just utilizing some power of three concepts. Still, honestly, keeping pretty close to like my core training method, which is still going to be based around inner circle trader concepts and methodology. Still looking at the higher time frame, still looking at the weekly to determine any type of intraday, still looking at external range, the internal range liquidity, but just trying to find, in some cases, like a little bit more of a higher probability setup. Not so much focus specifically on silver bullets any longer, because again, as I just mentioned, not really free during those times when those things occur. Granted, London is an opportunity, but it's not about, and I know this is kind of it might sound like it's counter, but it's really not. So while I could get up and trade the manipulation or the London session, I don't necessarily want to do that. However, there are other opportunities within the course of a day, or within the course of when the markets are open, depending upon the asset, that I can still look for power of three setups. So obviously, time based is going to be a little bit more higher probability with confluences and such. But as I said, it's just something to work out. And speaking of time frame, confluences, and power of three, what you actually see here is just a lot of people will. I'm not gonna say what a lot of people do. I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing. So, this idea for Ether and USD was kind of born from yesterday. So I actually put up here. This is essentially just like my horrible impersonation of like a potential breaker. So just the combination of all of these down close candles here prior to this break, and then this move up and above. So I was looking at this as let me go back. I had taken basically, and then you'll see this here. I had previously taken this move up, and I don't really do this all that often. This is a paper trade account, but I'm going to show you the history. So, for the people who are like, yeah, you're full of crap. So, this is Bitstamp. This is, can you see that on the screen? Yeah, you can see Bitstamp. I need to pull this up because I'm in the way before anybody's like, I can't see the date. There you go. So now you can see the date. You can actually see the fact that, well, I'm just barely in the way. I'm barely in the way. But look at that. I can scroll it up. So you can see here, 713. So this was yesterday. I literally had basically a 2,000 unit because it's a paper trade. I just wanted not so much the dollar amount, but I was just practicing the concept. It had nothing to do with the dollar amount returned in a paper trade account. Absolutely nothing to do with that at all. Okay. So what I did was I had a 2,000 unit position for long. I had moved into profit. I never moved to break even, but I said, I'm just going to take 1,000 off, which is what you see here. Essentially, this move will tell you the price that Bitstamp moved for Ether, 3211.7 thousand shares. 1,000 shares. So again, have no reason to mislead you guys. These negatives were basically like commission as if. So for those of you that trade crypto, you kind of understand and know like what that is. All right. So and just again, for the sake of transparency for the people and the yahoos that don't, 3211.7. 3214.3. So you can clearly see that I was looking at a very specific level. Okay. Very specific. This level actually was not based on the 15-minute, it was based on the 4 hour. So I was a little bit over. As I go into the 4 hour here, you'll actually see how and where this was drawn out. Right. So I just took basically, sometimes I'll use like a horizontal just as basically like my eye test to be able to say, okay, this is my point of invalidation, or this is the point in which I'm not looking to see price come back into. So I basically marked out this low. I was looking at a couple of things in here. And the one thing that I was looking at was this high to this low, this break of structure higher, and then this mitigation here. So it was a high, it was a low, it was this higher high, and then it swept out this low. So I didn't catch this down here. I was just looking at it when I set this up yesterday. So what I actually saw was, okay, you've got basically a sweep of liquidity here, swept out that low. Once it gave this fair value gap, it did tap into this fair gap, this fair value gap. I just marked that off as a reference for me to say, okay, price should continue to this high because of this structure shift here. Okay. Also, it's not my rocket science at all. You could look at the overall 4 hour structure, and granted, while you did not have a manipulation here, you did have a low that was put in here. If you were looking at something, say from a breaker standpoint, You could also use this last down close candle to say that even though price did retrace back in here, it did not clear this low, but you did have a low that didn't really break a high. I would have taken this as a high here, but in that instance and in that respect, following this all the way back across, that break would have come from in here. Long story short, the long and the short, the long and the short is we had a break long or a shift in market structure. It just depends on how you look at structure. I would have looked at this as the last high. Okay. And if you look, this candle closure and wick below this candle, candle closure and wick below. So this would have been my high. That would have been my low. You technically don't get a sweep out from here, but you do get a break above in this wick from here. So moving that forward, it's kind of like, okay, what's my cause and effect, right? The cause and effect is this wick taking out this high. I would be looking at, okay, where'd that come from? And then just following that back, it would have been here. But again, high, low, this is a higher high. When this comes back and it sweeps this out, and I get what shows me as a true shift or continuation long, is I get this fair value gap. This kind of helps me understand that, okay, there's a possibility and a fairly decent probability price will continue to this point. So I just marked it out, and literally I took a market order. I'm not gonna even sit here and tell you I had like a precise entry, because I did it. I was literally just kind of going back in and then just retooling from, again, a power of three perspective. That's all I've been like really looking at. And again, just to kind of recap, the only reason that I'm looking at things like that is because they can be time based, but it's also a little bit more mechanical, meaning in some instances it's not always the best, but in some instances, when available, those are the types of setups where you can set a limit and walk away. And if it taps in and delivers, great. If it taps in and it fails, it is what it is, because they can be mechanical if you so choose, if you don't have the time to sit. And it's just a matter of just being comfortable with the risk. So moving here to the 15, I've kind of done the same thing in this respect here, but I did it, I guess you could say, a little backwards, or for the short, if you will. So my short was use this as a breaker, just as prior to. And my thing was, okay, so price really shouldn't come all the way through. It actually did here. So if I'm honest, it wicked through. I'm not necessarily trying to fix it, but like I said, I just kind of put this in. That might have been, well, there's no might have in it. That would have been invalid. So this might be more of what the breaker would look like. And like I said, I'm not fixing it. I'm just, again, for me, I like to look at assets to test ideas. And it doesn't always mean that I'm right. It means that I'm a work in progress. So I need to claim my my mouse. I think that it takes it out, or it's right there. Yeah, it's right there. So this would line up with this fair value gap. Okay. But as you can see, like this, I already had this drawn out. So apparently somewhere in my mind, and that's why I say I'm still a work in progress. I'm never going to sell myself as some kind of, guru, or I know. And then this is just, I'm in a space where there's a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of people that say they know and don't have a fucking clue, a lot of people that won't get on and do what I'm doing, which is just be humble and show some level of humility in terms of like what you're unable to do, and to, I guess, potential naysayers or the haters or the people that are not willing to put themselves out there and say, hey, not so much, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing, but just just try to go through the motion of evolving and learning. They'll some will go into other live streams, say things like, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing. You have no clue. You guys are lost. You're not profitable." Yada 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 yada. Like all of that conversation, like all of those things, I don't look at as negative. I don't give it any thought, and I really don't give it any energy. And the reason for that is because when I decided to make this YouTube channel and base it on my trading, the reason that I did it was that it would chronicle a journey, right? It's never been about, I want to reach 1,000 subscribers. I want to reach 10,000 subscribers. I want to monetize the channel. I want to sell courses. I want to become a brand ambassador for affiliate programs and make affiliate commission. I want to be able to come and tell you how to trade it. It's never been about any of that, any of it. It's all been focused on my journey and documenting it. So there are a lot, like I said, I'm in a space where there's a lot of ulterior motives for views. There are a lot of very, very meaningful and useful information. There are a lot of great trading YouTubers that are outstanding at what they do. Like, I mean that genuinely. That's not like a subtle jab or anything like that. There are quite a few, and I don't mean that like quite a few, like small number. There's a fair share. Whether or not, not speaking for those that repackage information, ICT notwithstanding, and I know he's not the only one, but I'm just simply saying, not necessarily speaking of those things, but when I say that, I mean that there are some that are just truly genuine. They're gonna share ups and downs. They're gonna share wins and losses. Just off the top of my head, I would think Trades by Matt is amazing. He's transparent. He's going to show you in like the community tab, like if he's had a bad day, he's had a bad day. Like he's telling you, he's sharing. Patrick Whelan is down here in Florida. I'm in Florida. Another guy, very flamboyant. And I don't know Patrick. I doubt anybody that follows Patrick or knows is even going to see this video. It doesn't matter. But I will say this just in case. And it's not an in case like you're going to come after me, but this is just genuinely my opinion and my thought for anybody that has gone and watched any of Patrick's live streams. I will simply say this to you. He can probably be a bit much for some people. Okay. However, the same thing that I've adopted throughout my life, I've had it since I was a kid. I'll just say I was fortunate not knowing that was a conditioning I was going to develop and be. But I will just say this to you. If you get past the showmanship of Patrick Whelan, because I don't, at his core, that might be who he is. There's some people that can't get past the showman that is Patrick Whelan to understand his methodology, his thought process into trading. He is another that will say, hey, I got my ass handed to me today. This is what happened. Back again tomorrow. But, he puts on a show and rightfully so. He's put in the time. He does the work. Like I said, I don't know him personally. He looks like he's a fucking outstanding human being. That's just my opinion. But like I said, some people, would beg to differ because of whatever. At the end of the day, my point is everybody has a journey with some ulterior motive into why you would bring people into a community, why you would want to share. Because at the end of the day, again, this is a very lonely kind of industry. It's a lonely kind of niche, meaning even though you might know that there are other people that do what you do, it's still a very individual thing. It's not a monolithic, I'm looking at the market, I'm going to take this long. Well, 15 other people could be taken along for 15 other different reasons why. So, everybody has to find what's going to be good for them. For me, like I said, I think that this is just more of documentation. It also shows, if there's been growth. It shows, are you making the same mistakes over and over again? Because one of the things I like to do, honestly, is go back and watch old videos and look and see. And I'm not necessarily watching a video to see, I could edit that better. Because while I have that kind of a background, which is crazy, I was thinking about this the other day. Like I have like a digital imaging and photography background. I know how to edit videos. I know how to cut them. I know how to put subtitles in. I once working for Uncle Sam. I'll tell this story really really quickly because it's hysterical. And even to this day, when I think about it, like it's one of the things. It's a very weird thing, but it's one of the things that makes me like extremely extremely proud of. Like I could always say, like it makes me proud of myself because of how it happened and when it happened. So, long story short, working for Uncle Sam, I was deployed, and we were basically on our way back here to the States, and we had some video equipment that was essentially going to be like cast off. The military. Well, once we got back in, basically it was going to be disposed of. Okay, because a couple of the components weren't working. So one of these pieces of equipment was a video camera that didn't have like the audio feed, that had like no physical microphone attached, and something with the audio function within the camera itself was just non-existent. Like the audio was not working. However, the ability to record imagery and everything else was perfectly fine. So there was nothing wrong with the camera outside of the fact that there is no mechanism by which you could record the audio. So yours truly took it upon himself to like say, okay, well, I'm trying to remember the context under which, but essentially it was like a week. I had like a week within like the digital lab to kind of learn and explore and do whatever. It was killing time. Like I didn't actually have anything to do for like that week. And I think I might've had like duty, and I swapped duty with somebody. So I had duty a couple days in the shop. So come across this video camera. Everybody is essentially nowhere to go. You're out in the middle of the goddamn, Mediterranean or the Atlantic, one of the two where we were. It was probably the Atlantic since we were on the way back. And we all, like, everybody just happened to be in the space. So yours truly, I'm a super, super huge kung fu karate movie person. Always been. I owe that to my brother. He was big on it. He kind of got me into it. So I took this camera and I was going around the shop, and I didn't know exactly what, but I was just having people, like talk to one another in different settings. And I was just recording. Obviously couldn't record what they were, audibly what they were saying, but I could record the video feed portion. So I just captured some people talking. I had two guys. I brought them into like our portrait studio space and asked them, hey, I want you guys to act like you're fighting, but, treat it like it's kung fu or some kind of martial art. They did that for like maybe 15, 20 minutes. So I got video footage of that. I was just walking around getting video footage. And over the course of like the next 3 days, I fed all the video in. And then what I did was I went and I grabbed, like I had VHS. Now I'm telling my age, but it is what it is. I had VHS tapes of things like, I think it was like Enter the Dragon. I had, Shaolin monks. I had like a litany of fucking VHS tapes for karate movies. So I literally just went in and I piecemealed like some of the dialogue. And I'm trying. I cannot remember the name of the actual one, but I only took like a couple of snippets from two. But I literally used Snake and Crane is what it was. The art of Snake and Crane, and the art of Snake and Crane. That was the movie. I took the majority of the dialogue from different parts in the art of Snake and Crane. And for those of you that are unaware, you can look that up. I believe Jackie Chan is actually in that. That's an early Jackie Chan movie. But I pieced it all together. And for everybody that was talking, I used basically, you already know where I'm going. It literally looked like it was like a bad remake of a Chinese movie with English subtitles to it. But it was hysterical because what I did was I took the extra time. I took like 2 days to do that. And I watched it back and I wouldn't let anybody see it. There were like 20 or 25 people I had like in my shop. So I kept it under tight wraps and I showed it to one of my coworkers who we spent a considerable amount of time together, just talking about different things, music, movies, whatever. So he had duty one night, and then I came down. We were hanging out talking, and I said, "Hey, listen, I got to show you. I want to show you something, but you can't say anything to anybody. I need feedback because I wanted to make sure like." You can always put your heart and soul into something and you think that like it's outstanding and if you don't have somebody that you can trust to be honest with you and bounce that idea off of, you might think, hey, it's great. You go in thinking this is the best thing since whatever, and then you display it and everybody's like, oh, that was shit. So I asked my friend, and I'm gonna put his name out here. It's like, unless you know me, you know who that is. If you don't know me, it's not a big deal. But I asked Frankie, I was like, hey, I need to show you something. I want you to see it and honestly tell me what you think. So he's like, okay, cool. He comes in, I put it on. And the way that I edited this, I had two versions. And to this day, nobody's ever seen the second version. To this day. This is 2024. I'm talking about something that occurred. Oof, I'm really going to tell my age now. This occurred. Do I really want to say this? My gosh. Oh my goodness. No, I'm not gonna go that far. I'm just gonna say it happened. It's been out of circulation for a long time. Okay. But I had two versions, and what I showed him and what everybody else saw was like a trailer version. Okay. The trailer version is about 5 minutes. The short movie version is about 30 minutes. So it's like short story, whatever. Okay. But he was laughing. He was like over the moon. He was like, man, how did you do? And I just told him, I was like, that's what I've been down here doing. So he was over the moon, whatever. He was like, man, that's great. So I want to say it was either the next day or like a couple of days later. We were having basically a formation, and we had the muster, and then there was just going to be like information or whatever. And I'd asked our division officer, hey, is it okay, like after we're done, if everybody can hang out for a minute, I have something, I'd like to share that I've been working on. And because it was related to work, and it's related to, what we do in terms of being creative, he was just like, okay, cool, yeah, no problem. And I showed it, and there were some people that were laughing. There were other people that were looking at me going, that's what the hell you were doing. But they were like, oh, so that's why you were walking around with the camera. We were trying to figure out what the hell you were doing, and this is what you were doing. So, yeah, I don't know why I wanted to tell you that story, where that came from. Probably in relationship to just journey and practicing and development. It might have been why I told you that story. But yeah, one of the greatest things that gave me like a sense of accomplishment, and knowing that I didn't really know what the end product was going to be, I kind of ad-libbed within the context of an idea that's already been out there. A kung fu movie that is shot in, maybe Mandarin Chinese, and then you have people that come in and interpret loosely or interpret directly where it does not sync with the actual, say, Mandarin Chinese that it's being spoken in, so it looks disjointed. So in my mind, I was like, hey, what if we did it the other way around? What if it's English, but it's an English, translation that is disjointed? And I think that was the thing for me that made it hysterical, because it's, I don't want to go too deep because then that goes into something else. But well, I will just say, I'll say this, because it's never, to my knowledge, maybe it has been, but I've never heard it said. I've always looked at it as some level of disrespectful. And I understand, because you can't necessarily sync, Chinese, Japanese, Korean when you're using English subtitles. It's not going to sync, right? So it's going to look some level of off. But for a time, that's always been a running joke about, oh, it's funny. Well, sometimes the funny wasn't related to just like the disjoining of words being spoken and then translated into another language. It was almost looked upon as, kind of ridiculous. I'll just say like a black exploitation film. Okay. But in this context, we're talking about, a kung fu movie. So along the same lines, so I need you to kind of read between the line there a little bit. So it's almost like a little bit of tomfoolery, if you will, that it looks like the connotation is, okay, it's disjointed, it's comical, it's not serious. So my take, even at that time, all those years ago, was in essence to make you laugh at yourself, not laugh at another culture, not laugh at another idea of translation or disjointment. Laugh at yourself. And it worked. But everybody was laughing under the premise of what the original foolery would be. But in essence, if you ever stopped after you watched it and you thought about it, you were laughing at yourself. So that was me being that was me being deep for deep sake at that point. Not deep fake, deep sakes. So anyway, I know that's like has nothing to do with trading at all, but I did want to share that. So yeah, I don't know. These are long. You could probably do without seeing me on the screen, but whatever, whatever. So 30 minutes in, 3 o'clock. Let's take a look at. I think I've drawn some stuff up on. Look at a couple futures markets. I actually have. Yeah, I got a bunch of crapola drawn out here. Yeah, we're just gonna have to go with that. So 15 minutes. Let's look at the weekly. I would tell you to disregard my stuff up here, but I'm not changing anything. So actually, let me do this. I want to lock that, and then we'll just get rid of that. We'll do it that way. So this is the weekly for NQ, for our NQ futures. So from last week to the previous week, we had external range liquidity taken in the wick. In the wick. We do have this fair value gap that's formed. So this low is going to be 23.45 from the weekly. If I start drawing, the other annotations are going to pop up on the chart. So I'm not going to do that. So we'll just have to identify this naked chart for right now. So what would my idea for the weekly be for NASDAQ? Like, a lot of people will look at this and say, well, there's not really a reason for the market to reverse or short. So a couple of things. I'll try to be really quick because we're at like 34, coming up on 35 minutes. So I'll try to be about 10 minutes in this. I have been, and it's gone against me more times than not, but I've been short and I'm waiting for this to short. So it's not going to be crazy when you hear me say, what am I looking for? What am I waiting for this week? I'm looking for a short. Under the premise of a power of 3 though, I'm not looking for the bottom to fall out. What I'm looking for in essence of a power of 3 is there may be a rally long, essentially, but again, external range taken. So if you look here, let's just go back to Monday, June 17th versus the week of June 10th. So you had this closure and then you had an open here, right? Excuse me. You had to open above, you had to move back in, you had an expansion higher, and then a closure. But here's the thing. This closure occurred beyond this body candle. So you could look at it from a weekly perspective or weekly candle perspective and say, okay, well, if it closed above, then we should still be going higher. Yes. This rejection kind of told you that there might not be as quickly as you think. There might be a little dilly-dallying. And I know you could say hindsight. Yeah, you could say all of this shit in hindsight. But yeah, you get a massive doji candle on the weekly for the following week. So did you get an expansion higher than this wick high? No, you didn't. But you did get the clear of liquidity below this low from the previous week. So again, you could say hindsight is showing you, yeah, who wouldn't? So here's the difference. This let me know that there's a low here. Okay, so this is going to be a low set 2 weeks ago. What also happens with that low from 2 weeks ago is there is a fair value gap. Eyeballing this, it hasn't reached the consummate encroachment. So that means it hasn't met the criteria for 50%. However, it's still a fair value still hasn't been provided because you still have room. It's been tapped into. So I'm not going to go into the whole exhausted, not exhausted thing. I'm just simply going to say that it's a fair value gap that has been tapped back into. So it is not an untapped fair value gap. It is also providing a low, right? So from this context, again, I would look at this and say, okay, well, this is a low. This is reach for external range liquidity. So if this week we get a closure above here, that's my high. Now, a couple of things could happen. We're not going to go into the couple of things. I'm just simply going to say this week I'm looking for a short. I'm essentially looking for a continuation short. The only other explanation that I will give you for that is you did have this expansion long, body closure above the previous 2 weeks, but this candle from last week, you've got a body closure inside the previous week's candle. You have a wick high, external range liquidity taken, and a body closure within the previous week's candle. So for that reason alone, I would be looking for a short back into, at least at a minimum, this relatively ranged fair value gap and potentially shorter. I want to look at something and see if no, I don't see it. I was just kind of looking back within I didn't want to go back months and years looking, but I was looking to see if there was another previous high and low, to see if it's relative to move back into that. The only other area where I could say basically high and low is going to be here. So this could be a high, this could be a low, this could be a higher high, and then you've got potentially another high put in. Could it provide context to run this low? It could. I don't know. I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. So I would look essentially at price moving back inside for that fair value gap. And that fair value gap probably is going to be in here. So even on the daily, maybe a move back inside here. So high, low. This could be an expansion. You could say it's a high, or yeah, that's a high, that's a low, that's a break. So for me, again, just eyeballing and looking, I would need this low taken out. So price would have to, for me to be sold on the shorts, like the extreme shorts, price is gonna have to close below 19,763. It's gonna have to take this out, and I realize that that's basically within the framework of this fair value gap, which again, interestingly enough, is barely tapped into, but it's been tapped nonetheless. Um, It is what it is. So just based on how this structure is set up, yeah, you could get a wick down into this area and a rejection. Just depends on what the expansion looks like. If we get on the daily, um, you get expansion with several consecutive down close candles that leaves a fair value gap up here. I would not be surprised if this last move up, I wouldn't include. You could include the down close, or excuse me, the low here. It could be. I wouldn't. But if we see consecutive down close candles with expansion within this week, I would come here to this candle marked out at 19,812.75 if price decides, and I would just take from that low all the way up to this liquidity candle, this bearish candle. I would use that essentially as to denote to denote my breaker, because if you get the displacement, it should leave a fair value gap, and it's possible, not 100% guarantee, but it's possible that if there's a fair value gap that develops within any part of this breaker, it would be a there would be enough of a confluence there to where you can consider, under whatever pretense and situation, you could consider a short, maybe a little bit more of an interterm to long term short. It's possible, but as I said, we'll have to see. So with that, I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Hope I didn't talk your ears off, talk you to death. Again, we're gonna try to get cracking on some more videos, some more lives. I don't know if you guys really give a shit about day in the life. It probably isn't really all that important. But yeah, I appreciate the time. Thank you. And I'll see you next time. Take care.